one that knows, the watcher, the witness of all things, the one that is usually drowned out by the din and clamour of our everyday life and our mental chatter, is there in everyone. Everyone feels it. And many of those who felt it, like a lot of doctors I know, who deep down felt this is not correct, this is not right what I'm doing, but I'm not gonna rock the boat, because if I do, I'll lose my job, and if I don't, then I'm gonna lose my money, my kids won't be able to go to the private school, and so on and so forth. And so they get seduced into giving consent, even when it's against their will, their better knowing. And what the result of that is, there becomes a split inside that human, where they know that they've sold themselves out, but they're not willing to take that step to actually align with their truth, because it's going to be, in their world, it's going to mean, in their thinking, that's the end of their world as they know it. Right. Now, this is a very propitious point to be at. It's not a very enviable point, because it's very uncomfortable when you know something deep down is not right, but you're just going along with it anyway. Like a lot of people did in the Second World War with Hitler, like with the Jewish people in the Second World War. Similar situation. And to bring that back to the hypnotic induction, the race induction, there's a man I've been following, you may have heard of him, called Hypnotised, who's the professor of psychology at a university in Belgium and in Antwerpen, and he came up with this term called mass formation. And that is really like the mass psychosis, which we saw in the Second World War with Hitler, the rise of Hitler and the rise of fascism and the rise of, in the USSR, of the rise of extreme communism and totalitarianism, where people get inducted into a certain conceptual framework, whether they like it or not. And if they're not, and many people, I believe at that time, felt that little voice inside too, but went along with it anyway. When I talked to a lot of Germans, I said, how come you did it? Well, we didn't know about it, and that was, we didn't know about what was happening with the Jewish people, but we had to go along because that's what you do, you support. So people have all these rationalizations. And so I think that's wearing very thin in our time, because a lot of people have been rationalizing the narrative for quite some time. But many of those people are starting to wake up, what I call waking up from the spell, from the race hypnosis. And Hypnotised, who coined this phrase mass formation, which is, race hypnosis, he says that out of 100% of people, 30% of people will not buy the narrative. They'll just go, absolutely not. No, I don't believe this. And then you get like, a good 30% or 40% more who absolutely believe, who are sort of in the middle, like these doctors I was saying. I know there's people like that personally, who feel something is off, but they still go along with it. And then you get the other 30% that absolutely believe the narrative. So, but this does shift over time as people start to wake up, particularly when the pressure is brought to bear. And, I would see that with the mandates and everything else, where people, on the pain of losing their jobs, were faced with having to either listen to their internal clock, their internal voice, or go along with, against their better knowledge, with the story. And many, many people did that. But many, many people are waking up from that. I'm part of a group called the Parents with Questions. Now, there are people who are all professionals, doctors, lawyers, people out there in the marketplace, working in professional jobs, who have come together, and these are all good examples of people who I would put in that middle bracket, where they felt deep down something was not right, but they went along with it. But now they've woken up and they're forming networks. And because these people are not what you'd call alternatives or people who see through the story straight away anyway, but actually don't do that much about it, these people are actually very proactive. They're going out, forming committees, forming groups. They're inspiring other people to do the same work, and they're really, really proactive. And although I'm not actively part of them, it's beautiful to see that people, to me, that's a barometer of what's happening in society, regardless of what's being reported in the mainstream media, or regardless of what's being reported in the alternative media. When you tap into that middle stream, that middle peak 30 to 40% who can feel, who are sensitive, but don't want to risk their jobs or their lifestyle, a lot of those people are waking up, and that's a very good sign for me. I feel that is the tipping point in there, And, you know, we are being brought down to a bottleneck. Things are speeding up. Things are accelerating. Like it's literally like a top where it goes, whoa, whoa, whoa,
Yeah.
whoa, whoa,
Yeah.
whoa, whoa, whoa.